Before we get started today, this video contains spoilers for Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, up until episode 4, so be sure to catch up before starting this video. We'll be waiting for you when you're done to get into the meat of the matter. Once again, this week's episode was a treat. The episode focuses on the rescue of Princess Leia from the Inquisitor's clutches, which was, in and of itself, a thrilling rescue to rival others such as Han Solo's rescue in episode 5. What caught our attention, however, was the way Obi-Wan gradually began shifting his behavior from that of a frightened ex-Jedi to something that more and more resembles his former self during his peak in the Clone Wars. There's been heated debate among fans regarding how powerful Obi-Wan may or may not be in Kenobi, and in this video, we'll be analyzing the mounting proof that, despite the impressions from the first few episodes, Obi-Wan is far from weak.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
There can be no disputing that, during the time of the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi was one of the most skilled and powerful Jedi in the galaxy. His reputation preceded him everywhere he went, not just as a capable diplomat and emissary of the Jedi Order, but also as a competent Jedi General and a fierce combatant. On this channel, we've already discussed the principles of Form 3, but what we haven't yet analyzed is how Obi-Wan Kenobi was the greatest master of Soresu to grace the galaxy. More than any other lightsaber form, Soresu was characterized by a complete unification with the Force. The Form 3 practitioner reached out to the Force and welcomed it within them, allowing it to guide their blade and body. It was the eternal calm of being in unison with the Force that allowed the Jedi to see and know all so that they could defend absolutely and serenely. This mental state of serenity is what allowed Obi-Wan to utilize Soresu to the fullest of its potential, even in fights against incredibly skilled opponents such as Count Dooku. A true master of Soresu focused on efficiency and economy of movement. For example, some bolts that could be easily avoided were dodged rather than deflected. The practitioner avoided moving unless absolutely necessary, and it was common for a master of Soresu to stand their ground and parry attacks using their arms alone. Obi-Wan's absolute wall of defense against Count Dooku proved just how capable he was of employing these principles in combat. With his mastery over the Force and of Soresu, no one would argue that Obi-Wan was at his peak at the height of the Clone Wars. The first few episodes of Kenobi, however, have cast a shadow over the General's former reputation, as fans and critics alike have speculated on his apparent weakness following the decade in between Episode 3 and the events of the newest Star Wars series. There's no arguing that, in Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, Obi-Wan is no longer at his peak as he was during the Clone Wars. 10 years have passed since the events of Episode 3, a period during which Obi-Wan abstained from all forms of Jedi training, whether that was with the lightsaber or the Force. After watching the first few episodes of Kenobi, it becomes crystal clear that the effects of this new lifestyle have taken a heavy toll on the once great Jedi. Over the course of the first 3 episodes, we've seen Obi-Wan struggle with things that would have seemed trivial to the Jedi General of the Clone Wars. We've witnessed him struggling in hand-to-hand combat against non-Force users. We've seen him flee from the Inquisitors rather than risk open battle with them, even in a one-on-one fight, which the Obi-Wan that single-handedly took down Count Dooku would have no trouble with. We've seen him struggle to call upon the Force in order to save young Leia, who was falling to her death. We've watched as he's come face to face with Darth Vader and fled for his life after barely managing to withstand the barrage of heavy blows dealt by the Gemso Master. And perhaps most jarring of all, we've seen him afraid in a way that Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi never was before. In other words, we've seen Obi-Wan at the lowest point in his life. During the first half of the series, we've seen a man who was tired, battered, and dispirited by the events of Order 66 and his own failure to his student. The once fearless Jedi seems now to be nothing more than a shadow of his former self. Even Obi-Wan himself believes that, as he makes it perfectly clear to Bail Organa.
I can't.
She's my daughter, Obi-Wan.
I told you. I'm not the man you remember.
Well, you're going to have to be.
Judging by the evidence up until Episode 3 and Obi-Wan's own account, he's nothing more than a diminished shadow of the Jedi he once was in both strength of character and abilities. But with the release of Episode 4, an entirely different picture begins to emerge. With this week's episode, we finally start to see that, despite the hard times he has fallen on, Obi-Wan is anything but weak. While it remains true that he's no longer at his peak, there's a significant difference between being past one's prime and severely weakened. And this episode does an excellent job of highlighting just how powerful Obi-Wan still is despite the decade of inactivity. Through the first half of the episode, we begin to see small glimpses of Obi-Wan as he tended to behave during the Clone Wars. Not only does he manage to infiltrate the Imperial facility, but he uses stealth and wits to evade notice by the Imperial forces. Not only that, but he even calls upon the Force to distract two stormtroopers that were close to discovering him with an ease that serves as stark contrast to the difficulty he had summoning the Force only 2 episodes ago. These glimpses all coalesce in a nerve-wracking scene during which Obi-Wan proves himself once more to be more than capable as a Jedi and a true master of Soresu. In this scene, Obi-Wan and Leia find themselves in a narrow corridor with Imperial forces congregating on their position from all sides. Obi-Wan has to protect not only himself, but Leia as well from the incoming blaster fire. The situation calls for ironclad defense, and what we see in response is a master of Soresu reawakening the principles of their perfected form and employing them flawlessly. Despite the onslaught of blaster fire, Obi-Wan doesn't waste energy by worrying about them all day. Many, he simply chooses to ignore or dodge rather than deflect, and he remains primarily in place while managing the incoming fire. The most convenient bolts are deflected back toward his opponents, effectively taking them out. His accuracy is so precise that he even scores a direct hit on the panel controlling the door, effectively blocking off the final wave of reinforcements and buying Leia time to be evacuated. Where the scene becomes truly empowering, however, is when the crack in the glass panel holding back the weight of the ocean above is noticed. Without hesitation, Obi-Wan reaches out with the Force to hold the cracking glass together long enough for Leia to reach safety. Not only is he successful at holding back the monstrous weight of the water with the Force alone, but he manages to do so while deflecting more incoming fire as the Imperials begin prying the door open. Despite the immense difficulty of multitasking 2 difficult tasks, he guides the crack in the panel along toward his opponents, and at the perfect moment, he releases his grip on the Force and allows the ocean to sweep the Imperials away. Obi-Wan himself makes his escape at the very last second, much like he used to do back in the days of the Clone Wars. This scene stands out as a stark contrast to the frightened man from before. The Obi-Wan that stood in the corridor was a Jedi who instinctively reached for the Force when he was in need and trusted in it to guide him. During the fight itself, he employed all the principles of Soresu despite not having practiced in a decade, and his flawless deflection is a testament to his strong connection to the Force in the moment. Many may criticize the moment as one of weakness, as he did not directly attack his opponents. What's important to remember, however, is that Soresu is a form focused on survival, not victory, and what Obi-Wan did is survive. This wasn't a coward's victory, but a carefully controlled play in which he emerged victorious. In many ways, the culminating fight in this episode proved not only to us, but to Obi-Wan himself, that he's still a force to be reckoned with. What do you make of Obi-Wan after that thrilling fight scene? We firmly believe that, with 2 episodes to go, we're going to see even more of Obi-Wan's former glory shining through. But what do you think? Feel free to post your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.